Under the harsh sun of the wild Texas land, Bear Mallister was repairing a fence near the creek when he noticed a small figure staggering toward the water. At first, he thought it was a wounded animal, but when he looked more closely, Bear froze. It was a child. The little girl was so thin that it seemed a strong gust of wind could knock her over. The traditional Comanche clothing she wore was torn, covered in dust and mud. Each step was slow and heavy, as if her small body might collapse at any moment. Her cracked, dry lips and her large sunken eyes told one clear truth. She had been hungry and thirsty for many days. In this land, seeing a Comanche child on white settlers' property usually meant trouble. The hatred between the tribes and the settlers had lasted for many years, and most people would reach for a gun before thinking about helping. Bear understood that. He also knew that one wrong decision could put his entire ranch in danger. But when the girl looked up at him with eyes filled with fear and desperation, Bear felt his heart tighten. He no longer saw a Comanche standing before him, he saw only a child, close to death from hunger and thirst. And in that moment, Bear made a decision that would change the fate of them all. As Bear was about to hand the bowl of food to the girl, a small, unexpected detail made him freeze. Beneath her torn clothing, he saw a necklace made of finely crafted beads. The patterns on it were not ordinary jewelry. Bear had heard neighbors talk about them before. This was a ceremonial symbol reserved only for the family of Chief White Bull, the most powerful leader of the Comanche tribe in the region. Bear's heart began to pound. If the girl was truly White Bull's daughter, then he was not just helping a lost child. He was sheltering the most important person of an entire tribe, one with hundreds of warriors ready to risk their lives to protect their honor and bloodline. A single small misunderstanding could turn Bear's kindness into a reason for war. He realized that from this moment on, everything had gone beyond his control. But as he looked at the girl, trembling from hunger, Bear knew he could not turn back now. As the sun was setting, Bear heard the rapid sound of horses' hooves outside the ranch. He stepped out and saw Cletus, Deputy Sheriff Morrison, and Pastor Thomas riding toward him with worried faces. "Bear, this is serious," Cletus said urgently. "There's signal smoke on the hills. The Comanche are searching everywhere." Morrison continued, his voice cold as steel. The daughter of Chief White Bull had been missing for 3 days, and the latest tracks all led toward Bear's ranch. One single accusation, and 200 warriors could come charging in. Bear knew he should deny everything, but he couldn't. "The girl is in my house," he said. "She was nearly starved to death. I only saved her." Pastor Thomas whispered, as if afraid of his own words. "You've just put your life and this whole region into the hands of death." Morrison turned back to his horse. "I have to warn the town. Bear, you should return the child before they arrive. If not, they will see you as a kidnapper." The 3 men rode away, leaving Bear standing alone in the darkness as fear slowly rose around him. In the distance, the sound of war drums began to echo. If you were in Bear's place, would you tell the truth like he did, or lie to save yourself? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Inside the quiet wooden cabin, Bear was still trying to calm himself when the Comanche girl suddenly jumped up. The sound of war drums echoed from far away, slow but heavy, like the heartbeat of a giant beast drawing closer. The girl's face turned pale with fear. For the first time since she had been saved, she clearly understood what was happening. She rushed to Bear, speaking quickly in Comanche, then grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the window. Her small hand lifted, her fingers opening and closing one by one, counting in the air. Bear followed the movements, whispering the numbers to himself. 10, 20, 50, 100. When she stopped, the number had gone far beyond what Bear could imagine. About 200 warriors. Bear's legs nearly gave way. He had hoped very faintly that only a few Comanche would come looking for the child. But 200 warriors meant an army enough to flatten the entire area in a single night. The drums suddenly fell silent. The quiet that followed was even more terrifying than the sound. Outside, in the darkness, a circle was tightening around Bear's small wooden house. Bear took a deep breath and opened the door, stepping outside with both hands raised high to clearly show that he carried no weapon. The Comanche girl followed closely behind him. What he saw before him made his blood feel like it froze. Hundreds of warriors on horseback formed a massive circle around the ranch, all of their weapons pointed at him. At the front of that formation stood a tall man with black hair streaked with gray and eyes as sharp as a blade. It was Chief White Bull. The girl ran to her father and spoke quickly in Comanche. Bear hoped her words would help him, but White Bull's face remained cold and tense. He stepped closer to Bear, close enough for Bear to feel the pressure coming from the man. "My daughter says you fed her," White Bull said in a deep, clear English voice. "That you gave her shelter." Bear nodded. "She was close to starving to death. I couldn't leave her." White Bull's eyes did not soften. "But you also knew who she was. So why didn't you return her to us immediately?" The question echoed in the night, like an accusation. Bear understood that a single wrong answer could turn this entire land into a battlefield. Under the suspicious gaze of Chief White Bull and the hundreds of arrows pointed at him, Bear knew that words alone would not be enough to save his life. He slowly reached into his coat pocket, making the warriors tense at once, then pulled out a small piece of cloth, torn and covered in dust. "This is from your daughter's dress," Bear said. "It caught on my fence when she entered my ranch. I kept it because I thought you might need it." Every plated actuals. White Bull looked at the cloth, and his eyes wavered for a brief moment. It was indeed part of the ceremonial outfit his daughter had been wearing when she disappeared. Bear continued, his voice trembling but steady. "She came to me because she was thirsty and starving. I could have chased her away. I could have shot her as an intruder, but I didn't. I carried her into my house, gave her my own food, and covered her with the only blanket I had. Word, in the Skage and here." The girl spoke up in Comanche, nodding as she confirmed every word Bear said. In that moment, silence spread between the two sides. There were no more accusations or threats, only the truth standing between an angry father and the man who had saved his daughter's life. Before the silence could fully settle, a warrior stepped forward from the Comanche ranks. His face was covered in scars, and his eyes burned with anger. It was Broken Arrow, one of the youngest and most aggressive warriors. He shouted loudly in Comanche, his voice sharp like a knife, then pointed the tip of his spear straight at Bear. Even without understanding the words, Bear knew Broken Arrow was demanding blood. To him, the fact that a white man had touched the chief's daughter, no matter the reason, was an unforgivable insult. White Bull answered in a deep but firm voice, ordering everyone to remain calm. But Broken Arrow did not back down. Several other warriors began to stir some siding with him, others remaining loyal to the chief. The disciplined formations started to crack, splitting into two opposing sides. The Comanche girl clung tightly to Bear's hand, her body trembling with fear. Bear realized that the danger now did not come only from outside but from the division within the tribe itself. All it would take was a single spark, and everything could explode into a massacre. If you were White Bull, would you choose to uphold the traditional law of blood, or listen to the words of a child and spare Bear? Leave your opinion in the comments below. At the moment when the tension reached its peak, the girl suddenly stepped forward, moving straight between Bear and Broken Arrow. Her young voice rang out firmly in Comanche, cutting through the heated air like a sharp blade. She told everything. How a storm had caused her to become separated from the hunting party, how she wandered for days without food or water, and the moment she truly believed she would die alone on the open plains. Then she pointed at Bear and said that this man had carried her into his house, fed her, let her sleep, and asked for nothing in return. The warriors began to listen. Faces that had been tight with anger slowly softened. She turned to Broken Arrow and asked a question that made the entire circle fall silent. If his own child were in that situation, what would he want a stranger to do? The question struck directly at the pride and the deepest fear inside every father's heart. Finally, she spoke to all the warriors, saying that if they punished kindness, they would become exactly the monsters that white men feared them to be. The anger faded, replaced by hesitation and reflection. In that moment, a child did what weapons could not. She made 200 warriors fall silent. Under the dim moonlight, Bear was escorted to the Comanche village not as a prisoner, but as a man waiting for his fate to be decided. Around him were hidden paths and deep valleys that white men had never known. 3 hours of riding passed in heavy silence. At the center of the village, 7 elders sat in a curved circle around a large fire. Their faces were marked by years of war and loss. Bear stood in the middle, feeling small and exposed under the gaze of those who held the power to decide his life or death. White Bull retold the story, from the moment his daughter became lost to the moment Bear saved her life. Broken Arrow still spoke out, demanding punishment under the old law. The debate went on in Comanche, a language Bear did not understand, but he could feel the tension steadily rising. Then the girl stepped forward. Her voice no longer trembled. It was calm and strong. She spoke about hunger, fear, and Bear's kindness. When she finished, the oldest elder asked a single question. Did she believe Bear would save a Comanche child again, even if it meant risking his own life? The girl answered immediately, without hesitation. Yes. After the girl's testimony, the elders whispered among themselves by the fire. The heavy silence seemed endless, until the oldest elder finally stood up. Through White Bull's translation, he declared that this night was not a test of war, but a test of compassion, and Bear had passed it. Bear was not only spared, he was also granted the protection of the Comanche tribe. Anyone who harmed him or his ranch would have to answer before the council. In return, Bear promised that if any Comanche ever came to him hungry, wounded, or lost, he would help them just as he had helped the girl. The girl ran forward, hugged Bear tightly, and said in broken English, "Thank you for saving me. Now I saved you." When dawn came, Bear returned to his ranch with an honor escort instead of an enemy army. From that day on, his land became neutral ground, a place where Comanche and white settlers could meet in peace. Many years later, the girl grew up to become a translator and a messenger of peace between two worlds, all of it beginning with a single bowl of food given to a hungry child.